Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Suranjali Seal, and like I always say, if you are somebody that loves literature and is all about literature, then this is the channel for you. In our video today, we are going to discuss the Renaissance as a movement that we see in England during the Age of Elizabeth. Now, if you haven't watched my video on the Age of Elizabeth, which I had uploaded earlier, make sure you do so because I had already covered the basics of the Renaissance in that video. So make sure you check it out for reference. In this video, we're going to dive deep into what the movement was all about, what are its characteristics, and what is the significance that it held in the history of English literature. So let's get right into it. Okay, so guys, if you look at the screen, you can see that I actually included a painting and the name of the painting is The Ambassadors, and it's by Hans Holbein, and it is from 1533. Now, the reason why I included the painting is because I think that I could make, or I felt that I could actually make this lecture a little bit more interesting. We are not going to look at the Renaissance in the traditional sense where I'll give you a lecture and I'll just like provide notes, okay? What we're going to do is you and I together, we are going to decipher this painting. We're going to decode this painting. Now, this painting has been considered to be the artistic manifestation of the Renaissance. That is, it represents the Renaissance, okay? You can see there are two people and then there's a table with a top shelf and bottom shelf, and there are various objects that are scattered about, okay, in that table. Now, each of these objects, they symbolize something and they actually represent important aspects of the Renaissance. So what happens is this whole picture is the Renaissance itself. If we understand this picture and if we decode this picture and its symbolism, we will have the entire topic covered. So what we are going to do, you and I right now, is we're going to look at the symbols, we're going to look at the objects and what they represent. And if you understand this painting and if you're able to recall this painting during your examinations or during your work, whenever you have to recall the Renaissance, if you're able to recall this painting, you will be able to recall the entire topic in one picture. So we are going to dive deep right into it, okay? Okay, so guys, let us begin deciphering this whole painting, okay? First of all, we will look at the men, the two men, okay? So we'll know their names for now, okay? And what they stand for and their role, we're going to do it a little later, okay? For now, just know their names. So first we have John de Denterville, the French ambassador to the English court of Henry VIII, and in brackets I've written politics. And the second person is George de Selve, Bishop of Lavaux, religion. Okay, so on the one hand we have politics, on the other hand we have religion. So we're going to look at this aspect later in the video. For now, just remember their names. What we're going to focus on in this first slide are the objects. We're going to begin with the objects, okay? So the first object that I'm going to focus on is the celestial globe. You know that there's a terrestrial globe, the globe that we have at home with the map and all, right? That's the terrestrial globe. But there's a celestial globe as in heavenly, okay? So there's the one on the top shelf, the blue one, that is the celestial globe. What does it symbolize? What does it tell you? That there must have been interest in astronomy. This was the time that Galileo was also there, okay, was present. So there was this interest in astronomy, interest in knowing what's out there, how the world works, right? So this is the celestial globe. Just next to it, the one that seems to be wooden, right? Those instruments over there, just next to it, those are specialized scientific instruments, okay? So, of course, it was a time when or comparatively, science was progressing at that time, okay? If we compare it to the previous centuries, science was developing, was progressing at the time. So, these are the specialized scientific instruments of that time, okay? So, what does this tell you? That there must have been scientific temper, there must have been this interest in rationality, science in the world. Why was it so? If you recall my Age of Elizabeth video, I have explained there in detail that it was the age of exploration, right? That England was finally breaking her borders, opening her borders, her barriers, okay? She was opening her barriers and she was opening herself up to the world and its ideas. She was traveling from one place to the other. She gained command over the seas, and now as she traveled from one place to the other, She was accumulating ideas. She acquainted herself with the differences and also the similarities in the world that we have, right? So she was going to these different places, exchange of ideas was taking place. She was accumulating all these different ideas, concepts, and then she was bringing it back home. And back home, there was this spirit of questioning, of wanting to know more, of this interest in the world. During the medieval times, that is before, if you have watched my Mystery, Miracle and Morality play video, you would know that during the medieval times there was this obsession with the afterlife, that if you act well, then you will either go to heaven, and if you have sinned in life, you'll go to hell. So there was this obsession with the afterlife, of heaven and hell, okay? But now, during the Renaissance, as man opened himself up to the world, there was this obsession of the life that they were living. There was this desire to know more about the world, how the world works, and that led to the scientific temper. So you can understand this symbolism. So you have the celestial globe and you have specialized scientific instruments. Both of them together bring us to the education during the Renaissance. And remember, in the age of Elizabeth, I had talked about humanism which developed during this period. So this is what we are hinting at: Renaissance education. Basic arts would be grammar, logic, rhetoric, and these three: grammar, logic and rhetoric. Rhetoric is the art of speaking, okay, the way you speak. So the grammar, rhetoric and logic, these are the basic arts. They are called the trivium. Imagine yourself, you're taking an education during the period of the Renaissance. These are the three basic arts you'd be given education in, okay? You'd receive an education in these basic arts. Then you have the quadrivium, and in the quadrivium you have arithmetic, you have music, you have geometry, and of course astronomy, okay? So the quadrivium had arithmetic. Now it was the age of exploration. Now those scientific instruments that I talked about, right? There's a sundial there. Do you know what is a sundial? You can measure the time via the shadows cast, okay? A sundial. So that a sundial is there, okay? The shadows cast can tell you what is the time of the day, okay? Then you have say torquetum. A torquetum would be a navigational device. It would help you in navigation. So arithmetic, okay, and geometry, you needed to know them because it was the age of exploration. It was the age of the scientific temper. So arithmetic and geometry was also part of education, okay? And you have music. You see that instrument down there? I'm going to talk about it in the next slide. For now, just remember that music was also part of education, okay? And of course, astronomy, which is symbolized by that celestial globe. So together, the trivium and the quadrivium together, they are part of what we know as Studia Humanitatis or humanism. So humanism represented a significant development in the late 14th and 15th century Europe. It involved the study of not only Greek and Roman language. So as we know, Renaissance, rebirth, revival of learning, it's not just that. It actually involved a variety of new disciplines that revolved around philology, history, science, philosophy and literature. So I hope this is clear now, that it was a time when it was not just about revival of Greek and Roman learning. It was not just that. It was more than that, actually. Even literature found its fruition during the time. Literature also thrived during the time. We have Shakespeare. Then we have philosophy and science and also history that actually thrived during the period. And all of this is part of humanism. So we are done with Renaissance education. Now we're going to move on further. Okay, so now we'll focus on that musical instrument, okay? And the name of the instrument is a lute. So one of the strings, if you observe closely, one of the strings of the lute is broken, symbolizing discord. Discord would mean disagreement. Now, those of you who have watched my Age of Elizabeth video, you would know what this disagreement and discord hints at. It is, of course, hinting at the disagreements between the Protestants and the Catholics during the time. So this is further intensified. This idea, this discord, okay, between the two groups was further intensified via two other images. One is an open hymn book, recognizable as the work of Martin Luther, okay? And the other is the silver crucifix. If you see on our left, there's this curtain which is parted slightly at the top, and there's a silver crucifix behind it, just peeping behind it, okay? So this silver crucifix and the open hymn book, okay, which is recognizable as Martin Luther's printed hymn book, these two, okay, they actually Holbein, he characterized this or represented this religious conflict between the two groups. He represented in this juxtaposition between the Lutheran hymn book and that Catholic crucifix. Okay, so there was this discord. If you know the history, okay, of English literature properly, and if you have watched that video, the Age of Elizabeth video, you would know that I mentioned that although there was relative religious stability during the time, there was stability, religious stability during the time, but there was periodic skirmishes between the Catholics and the Protestants. And also this was the time when Martin Luther was advocating for Protestantism. So Protestantism, okay, was actually found its way, was growing during this time, okay, the ideas of Protestantism. So the two groups, the conflict, the discord between the two is symbolized by that broken string in the lute, okay. So this is one aspect. Another thing is, quite clearly you can see that in that open book, it is a printed book, okay, printed, again, printing, the printing press. Johannes Gutenberg was a goldsmith, was a German goldsmith. He is known to have invented the printing press, okay. But William Caxton was the one who brought it to England during the time of the Renaissance, during the Age of Elizabeth. He brought it to England, and he is the first person like that we know of, okay, he is the first one to own a retail shop of printed books. That's why he's famous, okay. He owned a retail shop of printed books. So that's why William Caxton is famous, and this is what is actually highlighted, this printing, the invention of printing in the later half of the 15th century, okay. So this is one other aspect. Then you have another book over there, the bigger one, which is open. That is an instruction manual for merchants to calculate profit and loss. Profit and loss, we can understand, arithmetic, okay, so that's again symbolized by that. But merchants, instruction manual for merchants. Why have I highlighted merchants here? Because again, this actually is symbolic of trade and commerce. During the Age of Elizabeth, during this age of exploration, trade and commerce flourished because England was traveling to places. She was acquainting herself with the world and forming connections, and this was the beginning of her paving the way towards becoming an imperial power, okay. This was the beginning. So, you know, there was flourishing of trade and commerce. And if you have watched my Age of Elizabeth, remember to watch both the videos, because there's a lot of notes I had given in the other one. So in the Age of Elizabeth, there was this accumulation of wealth. Then there was social contentment, because there was a lot of wealth. There was this this emergence of industries. So, you know, all of this is highlighted by that book, okay. Lastly, we have the terrestrial globe, okay, below there. So it is also symbolic of mapping, okay, because Christopher Columbus during this time was on his voyage, his explorations, and of course, as people like him, as these voyagers were actually going out into the world, they were mapping the way, right? That's natural. They were trying to understand the horizons of the world, okay. So mapping was another aspect of the Renaissance, okay. They were trying to understand the world. And then Europe is labeled as Europa. Why is this significant? Because Europe at this time was starting to recognize herself as or developing her identity as a collective, right? Europe was developing her identity. So that's why this the name, we know it as Europe today, but that time they called it Europa. So Europa, okay, Europe, okay, was developing its own identity, and that's why this is important. So this is one other aspect. Now let's move on further. Now let us look at the two men, okay, who are there in the picture, Dentville and Self, and what do they represent, okay, what is the symbolism? So both of them were sent to England in 1533 under orders from the French king Francis I, and both were sent to prevent Henry's split from the Roman Catholic Church. So why were they in England? Why were they sent there? Because they had to prevent Henry VIII, who was the king of England at the time, they had to prevent his split from the Roman Catholic Church. So you have to know the history, as in why did it happen. So Henry VIII is best known, okay, for his 6 marriages. He had 6 wives, he married 6 times, and what happened is he secretly married Anne Boleyn, okay. During this time he married Anne Boleyn secretly, and he wanted to divorce his first wife, and this was not allowed, okay, by the Roman Catholic Church. It did not sit well with them. They were not accepting this idea. They did not want to go ahead with the annulment of the marriage. So the Roman Catholic Church did not support this annulment, okay. And Henry VIII got like he did not like it, he did not agree with them. There was this discord, there was this disagreement between the two, and what he did is he initiated the Reformation, and he tried to replace the Pope as the head of the Church of England, and he declared himself as the head of the Church of England. And this actually led to bitter skirmishes between the Protestants and the Catholics. And also the Pope did not like this idea at all, because Henry VIII took that liberty, right, of declaring himself as the head of the Church of England. And so this led to his excommunication also from the Pope. Okay, the Pope excommunicated him. Okay, so this is what the skirmish was about. This was the conflict, that he wanted his first marriage to be annulled, and this was not allowed by the Roman Catholic Church. So he initiated the Reformation, where he declared himself as the head of the Church of England. This did not sit well with the Pope, and it led to his excommunication. Okay, so this is clear, I hope. And in order to negotiate, in order to prevent Henry's split from the Roman Catholic Church, that's why Dentville and Self were sent. Okay, so I hope this is clear now. Now, what will you also think about? Look at the instruments, look at the two men, everybody sitting there. I mean, everybody, the two men standing there, and everything that is sitting on the table. What is absent? Women, right? I think that this painting itself speaks louder than words. I mean, there's no woman in there's no woman in sight in the painting at all. So this is again, this is also again interpreted to mean to depict the condition of women during the Renaissance. So Renaissance and women, you know, there's no presence. Okay, I mean, there's no depiction of women in the painting, but their presence is powerfully felt in its objects and surroundings. But because nowhere beside any object is there a woman. So what does this highlight? That it was a patriarchal society, and women were denied many of the benefits, social and cultural, of the Renaissance. So the women were not given the benefit, they did not reap the benefits of the Renaissance, because they were actually constricted in the private sphere. The public sphere was for the men, and women were constricted in the private sphere. And that's why in this whole picture, even though there's no woman, I think it speaks a lot louder about the condition of women during the Renaissance. So that's again another extra point that you get from this picture. And lastly, we're going to look at that slash. In the bottom of the picture, there's this slash, right? It's actually not a slash. If you look at it from a particular angle, you will see that it's a skull. Okay, so this technique of actually, making objects seem trivial, that they don't have any meaning, but from a distance or from a particular angle, they actually reveal themselves to be objects, right? So this is known as anamorphosis, where it is a technique used by many Renaissance painters, where, from different angles and all, you can make out that it's an object. So here also, if you see from a particular angle, you can clearly see that it's a skull. Okay, so some people say it's anamorphosis, okay, and others say that it's a vanitas image. A vanitas image, no, it's have you seen, I think you've seen this still life painting, okay. This vanitas image actually is similar to that, and it is the intention of vanitas image, no, is to actually make the viewers realize their mortality. Make the viewers realize that death comes to all. It is a reminder to the viewers of their own mortality. So see, it was a time of exploration. It was a time that people were obsessed with the world. They wanted to know more. They wanted to control whatever they could. But the truth of life is that you have no control, and death comes to all. So many people have interpreted this to be a vanitas image, where Hans Holbein has also highlighted that in that hubbub of the Renaissance, right, where everybody was trying to decipher the world, the only truth is that death comes to all. Okay, that it's the worthlessness. Vanitas image also highlight the worthlessness and futility of everything, of the worldly things. Okay, so this is what is highlighted: anamorphosis, the painting technique, and vanitas image, that is the worthlessness of worldly things, because Renaissance was paving the way, okay, towards England becoming an imperial power, and there was this sense of want to control the world, want to understand the world, but also control it. Okay, so vanitas image would highlight the futility of it all. Okay, and the only truth that remains is mortality, is death. Okay, so I think this is very, very much clear right now. Now we're going to move on to the last section, and we are going to look at the points that come out, okay, out of all of this, the points that you can include in your answers. So what are the points to remember from Holbein's painting, and what can you actually include in your answers? So objects in the bottom section, okay, so you have various facets of the Renaissance. You have humanism, like we've discussed. We have politics, the two men, right, we have discussed. We have exploration, okay, we have discussed the mapping, we have discussed the trading and commerce. We have discussed this idea of Europa. We have also discussed that it was an age of exploration and there was relative harmony. There was social contentment, accumulation of wealth, increase of industries. Then we have this age of exploration. We have Christopher Columbus's voyages. We have this navigational instruments. We have also seen how this astronomy actually appealed to formed one of the basic of the liberal arts. One of the seven, the quadrivium and the trivium together was humanism, which was the seven liberal arts. In the seven liberal arts, one of them was astronomy. So we have the age of exploration, wanting to explore the world, opening up borders, command over the seas. Then we have religion, of course, the whole thing about Henry VIII and the Roman Catholic Church, then the discord between the Protestants and the Catholics, and then we have printing, the coming of printing in England. Then we have the empire, expansion of the empire, okay. Then we, or maybe I wouldn't say expansion yet, but the empire in the sense establishing itself as an identity, England, Europa as an identity. Then we have wealth, of course, through trade and commerce. And then we have the East, this voyage, okay, to the different parts of the world where they accumulated ideas, okay. Then we have objects in the upper shelf. So these are much more philosophical and abstract, okay. So you have celestial globe, then you have set of dials, you have the quadrant and torquetum. So all of this highlights what? Science, philosophy, instrument making, scientific temper, rationality, and practical solutions to natural problems. So while in the medieval times, every solution was based on religion, okay? And now we have practical solutions, rationality to natural problems, okay? So this is everything that you have to remember from Holbein's painting. And with this, we're done with the Renaissance as a topic. And if you can recollect a few of these points, and if you can substitute it and read it alongside my Age of Elizabeth video, I think you'll be done with the Age of Elizabeth, of course, and also the Renaissance in totality. So I hope that this video has been interesting and helpful for you. And if it has, then don't forget to like the video and share the video and subscribe to my channel for similar content. Until we meet again, love all things literature. More power to you. May you stay healthy and happy. And till we meet again, I would like to say that in my other videos, we're going to start, in my next video, we're going to start with the Puritan age, and we're going to move on with the writers from there. So stay tuned and see you in the next one. Okay, so guys, I just wanted to provide a few references. There are two books that I referred to for this video. One is this one, English Literature, Its History and Its Significance for the Life of the English Speaking World by William J. Long. This is my go-to book for every time that I want to actually revise on the history of English literature, and it has been a companion for me for quite a few years now. And the other book which I referred to is this one. It is entitled The Renaissance, a very short introduction by Jerry Bruton. Now this is the book that I actually focused on when I was studying on the Renaissance. So I used it to actually explain to you the Renaissance through this painting. So it is a very good book if you want to dive deep into this knowledge about the Renaissance. It might not be important from the perspective of the NET examinations and the university and college examinations, but if you want more richness in your answer and if you want a better understanding of the movement itself, then this is a very good book that you can refer to. And I gave this just for reference. If you think that it will be helpful for you, then make sure you check both the books out. Thank you.